Excel 2013 introduced a new concept of add-ins, and Excel 2016 has expanded this concept to interact with the Microsoft Store while coming with a few immediately accessible. Today I'm going to discuss one in particular that I find particularly handy, the Bing Maps app. Let's get started by looking at some data. I have a list of addresses, all public restaurants, so no special data here, with a random set of property values and tax appraisal values. You might be interested in looking at where these properties are relative to each other, which would involve going to Google Maps and copying and pasting each address in, and then making some evaluation about how the property values might be located, or even how their property value compares to their tax value. So let's look at how we can do that pretty easily. We can do that with the Bing Maps add-in. On the Insert tab, I can select Bing Maps, and a map of the world will appear. If this is your first time running the app, it will ask you to install it with a single click. But once it's loaded up, it will have a little walkthrough that you can use with some sample data. But I'm going to skip that since I have my own sample data set. Let's begin by looking at some of our settings by clicking on the Gear button. The Gear button offers different map types. Road is a standard road map like MapQuest, while Bird's Eye will give you a Google Earth view of the world. Beyond the map types, there are multiple data point displays and customized pin color. Neither of these are useful until we've entered some data, so I'm going to go ahead and close the settings window. To input data into the map, you will simply click outside of the Bing Maps window and then select the data that you're interested in. The addresses should be to the left of any data associated with those addresses, and so let's start by selecting just the address column. To load that data into the map, I then click on the pin within the Maps window. Doing so instantly zooms my map in to look at the location. This is a map of Arlington, Texas, and each of the points is simply a restaurant. You can click on any one of them to see the address of the location. But this is just the start. I also have property value information and tax appraisal information. So what can I do with them? I'm going to reselect the address location, but now I'm also going to select it and the property value column. Then I'm going to press the pin button again. Now my chart updates to reflect a bubble plot where each bubble reflects the property value of the location in question. I have a few large bubbles here, with this one having a value of $243,000 and a smaller bubble over here where my value is $70,178. I instantly have a graphical representation of the density of the property values within my list, but I can do even more. Let's select all three columns and press the pin button to see what happens now. Initially, each point has two bubbles appear over the top of it, indicating the relative size of each value. However, this can be difficult to read. So let's go back to our settings, and let's change the multiple data point display to pie chart. Immediately, each circle becomes a pie chart, showing the distribution between property value and tax appraisal. I can look at this chart and quickly and easily identify properties that have tax appraisals less than their property value and vice versa. This property on Random Mill has a much higher property value than its tax appraisal, as the tax appraisal appears to make up a third of the total pie. Alternatively, this property on Six Flags Drive has the opposite situation where the tax appraised value outstrips the market value. At this high view, I can get a ton of information about the properties, and just as with most map applications these days, I can zoom in using my mouse wheel. Zooming into the Six Flags Drive location, I can see a parking lot and the building and get a ton of visual information to go along with any data that I have at hand. While this isn't technically a chart object, the Bing Maps object can be used to lay bubble plots and pie charts of data against real-world locations to combine useful visual information about properties and locations with quantitative data held within a spreadsheet.